Heidi, hi everyone, and welcome aboard. Thank you, Marlon. It is wonderful to have you in our Trading Buddy show for this Thursday, the 22nd of September. Thanks for being our Trading Buddies for the day, and we hope we can get something into your favour in this session. And if you would like to contribute, of course, you know where the chat button is, or the chat box is. Simply type something in there if you want to come on camera, if you want to come on mic. Only too happy for that to occur as well. If you've got any ideas or something that you want checked or a second opinion on, we're all here for that express purpose. So please don't hesitate to ask or submit in need. Rightio, let's start the show with the usual, and that is having a look at the pound versus the US dollar as we prepare for the open of the UK session. Actually, before we do that, just remind you that we are in a super Thursday. We've already had overnight the Fed statement, of course. I haven't read it yet. I'm sure Ash will update us on that very, very shortly as to what was said. Clearly, as per program, if you like, or as per the expectation, a 0.75% increase in the Fed funds rate, and whatever the press conference and statement said, I have no idea because I've been extremely busy and haven't caught up with that yet. But I'm sure Ash will talk about that a little bit later. I noticed there was a little bit of whipsaw in a couple of things there as that came out. So perhaps we lost some stop losses along the way. I didn't lose any, but I have now been taken out of some trailing stops, and we'll update that very shortly as well. The Super Thursday continues, of course. We have had the monetary policy statement this morning, or earlier this morning, from the BOJ, and the press conference similarly has taken place. We're waiting now on the Swissy policy rate, which is tipped to go up to 0.5% from negative 0.25, so another 0.75 basis points to be added to the Swissy. That could be interesting for the Swissy and currencies that are trading against it or with it. And the bigger one today, of course, is the pound and its monetary policy statement tipped to go up by 0.5%, and that will have an effect, or either way, on what pound pairs are about. Tomorrow's another story. All right, so it is still a lot to consider as we go into this Thursday session. G'day, Paul P. Happy Super Thursday to you as too, mate. To you as well. All right, I did say we'll have a look at the pound. Let's do that. And I want to update you a little feature or a little rule that I've added to this one as well, which kind of was there in the first place, but it wasn't cemented in concrete. So we'll sort that out. All right, pound versus the dollar. Those of you who are unaware, this is a trial, and we're trying to isolate a trade that gets us consistently into a winning position. We won't be trying to do that all the time. But as this pound breaks out of its earlier range, that's what we're trying to achieve. So we isolate the Asia session, basically. This is the open of Tokyo here. And now we're looking for the open of London session on the hourly chart. That is the 0200 candle and the 0900 candle on mine anyway. We then isolate the range. In other words, we find the high of that particular area. In this case, that's going to be the high of this bar. Oh, I don't need that, do I? So we bring this one down. So that's the high there. The low is probably still forming, but we'll put it in just in case. At the moment, the low is there, but the current candle looks as though it may want to challenge that in the next minute. We shall see. But that will be the range if it doesn't, and we now need to find the midpoint. So we've got 1.1281 and 1.1219. So that is 62 pips. Has it gone below it? What's the low? 1.1219 still. Okay. So we will use 1.1219. As I said, 62 pips. So we go 31 pips above there, which is our midpoint. And that will take us to 1.12. What did I say? 62 pips. So 31. 1.1250. And there it is. So that's our midpoint. Now, once we've established that, we've got a high, we've got a low, we've got a midpoint. What we're trying to do now is to really trade the range in the first instance and then the breakout of that range. So what we will do now, because price is closed below the midpoint, we will trade this long. Had it closed above the midpoint, we would have traded this short. So let's get rid of these so it doesn't confuse you. So our entry will be the midpoint. So you put that into your trade manager or manual if you choose. Our TP1 is the high of the range and our stop loss is the low of the range. So we can put that into, in my case, the trade manager. And the high is 1.1281. That's our stop loss. Sorry, that's our TP1. 1.1250 is our entry. As I say, this is a trial basis, so minimum amount of money on this, guys. If anything, watch and learn is better. 1.1250 is our entry. Stop loss 1.1219, and get rid of that. TP1 is 1.1281. And we won't close any part of the trade at that point. We'll simply move our stops to entry. Now we can put our target or TP2 or anything you like in there, but a target becomes 2.5 times our risk. Our risk being 32 pips. Sorry, that way, 32 pips. And therefore, our take profit level will be 2.5 times 32, which will be 64 plus 16 is 80 pips. So we go 80 pips from entry, which will be 1.1330. Which is pretty much right there. I'll make that red so we know it's our target. Okay, now if we have time, I'll go through this more thoroughly, but the rule that I've used before is if it's too close to the entry point, so if price was up here right now, I wouldn't be taking the trade. Now I'm going to add a parameter around that, and I'm going to say 5 pips. If price is within 5 pips of your midpoint, which is therefore the entry level, don't take the trade. And the other side of that is, say that candle there was, pardon me, the last candle before London session. So in other words, going long, the candle itself is a bull candle, but it's below the midpoint. We would not take that trade either. In other words, we don't want to trade with the momentum of the candle. That's important also.